All right, I'm here with Lauren Sambataro and Renee Belz, the Biohacker Babes. I am super excited to have these two amazing ladies. They are, I've known them for a while. They are both powerful, powerful health coaches. And Lauren, especially, is basically a professional athlete. I mean, she's been a Broadway performer for many years. She's a corrective exercise specialist. And then you got Renee, certified nutritional consultant. She's got a master's degree in nutrition. I mean, these two are just powerhouses. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Joel.
Thanks for having us. Oh, wow. You make us feel really good about ourselves.
Yeah.
Appreciated, grateful, so happy to be here.
Yeah. No, seriously. I mean, these are all true things. And, you guys have done some amazing work and you've got an amazing, you really do have an amazing podcast, the Biohacker Babes. I mean, you get some really, really cool people on there. And I've had people reach out to me when I was on your show. And so you have an amazing audience and just I appreciate what you guys are doing. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm always curious, I before we start talking about all the amazing things you are doing, I'm always just curious, like, how you got here and really, like, we talked about on my story too, but, like, was there a day that you just realized, like, this is what I want to do? Like, whatever I'm doing right now, like, I'm done with this journey of health and that you guys both promote in different ways, but very similar. Yeah. Was there a day, and I know I'm talking to two people here, so this is different than just one, but yeah, was there a day that you realized, like, no, like, this is the path I want to go on?
Yeah. Do you want me to kick off, Lauren? I'll start.
Yeah.
I think, we both have our own stories, but it really started all the way back to childhood, I guess you could say. So we really are sisters. We are 2 years apart, and we grew up with our dad, who we call the OG biohacker. So he was biohacking back in the 90s. They weren't calling it biohacking because Dave Asprey wasn't around yet. But we grew up with, we had a PEMF mat, we had red light, low-level laser, essential oils, homeopathic remedies, infrared sauna, vibration plate. We had all this stuff back in the 90s. Didn't really know what our dad was doing at the time because we were focused on dance at the time. That was kind of our passion and our love. But I think to even go back one step further, how our dad got into it, I think is really interesting. So he was a traditional dentist right out of dental school, placing mercury fillings, doing root canals, using fluoride, all the typical stuff. And in 1985, his best friend was diagnosed with stage 4 melanoma and was given 3 to 6 months to live. They said, go home, get your papers in order. There's nothing we can do to treat your cancer. And this tough Italian guy kind of said, screw you, flew out to California, found the Livingston Wheeler Clinic at the time. They were doing alternative cancer treatment. And they said, open your mouth. All of that metal has to come out before we can treat your cancer.
Wow.
He flies back to Maryland to see my dad, and he says, what are they talking about? What does that have to do with my cancer? And even my dad in 1985 said, I have no idea. So he was so open-minded at the time. He started researching everywhere he could. I mean, there was no internet to just Google this, and he uncovered that there was mercury in these silver fillings. This was a huge problem. Try and make a long story short, his best friend is still alive today.
Wow.
He got the treatment he needed, got the mercury fillings out, and 1986, our dad stopped practicing traditional dentistry, became a holistic or biological dentist, and I think that really catapulted him into this always be open-minded, always look for another solution, alternative holistic care, and we grew up with that mindset. And then Lauren and I did go our separate ways. I went to Florida to study international business, graduated, got my dream job, realized I hated it. And that was kind of the turning point for me. I was like, wow, I spent all these years studying international business, and this isn't what I want to do. Yeah. My dad and my mom were like, maybe you should go back to school for nutrition. I did, and the rest is history. I'll leave it there.
That's so good. I love that. I can totally relate to just also getting kind of in the trap of falling into a path of life just because maybe international business, like, that sounds good, or like, I should go do that because that'll make me money and I will be successful. But that definition of success really probably didn't resonate with you, but what you're doing now did, and I just love that you actually had the courage to go back and then get a master's degree in nutrition. I mean, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
What about you, Lauren?
It was a scary decision, but
big time scary decision. I almost thought about I was a first responder for 15 years, and I was thinking about going back to school to become a chiropractor, because I thought that was holistic medicine, the best idea, but I just didn't want to invest 4 years plus 120 grand in debt, and then I have 2 boys and 2 kids, and it was gonna be difficult. So I went down the certification route with multiple coaching certifications in natural health. But Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean. That is, yeah, that's scary. I love that story about your dad, and I wonder what my
Yeah.
kids will. Now I'm trying to think because like my boys are raised in this environment of PMF mats and red light therapy. It's like, what a bunch of weirdos. But what will I wonder what they will turn out to be, right? So,
I mean,
Yeah.
we always said our dad was doing weird stuff, so I don't know. Maybe you're doing weird stuff too, but at some point, they will appreciate it and understand.
Yeah.
I mean, we were just like messing with this stuff. We were just playing with it because it was like another toy. We didn't realize they were tools for optimization. It was just a toy. So,
uh-huh.
you know,
What?
time and place.
Yeah. What? And then what about for you, Lauren? Was it? I mean, obviously similar with the OG biohacker dad, and I've seen you guys post a lot of things on Instagram. It's always cool to see him getting after it with you guys. But yeah, I mean, similar, but like, what about you for you? I mean, your path was different. I mean, you obviously went down the
Yeah,
more
same,
physical.
same, but
Yeah.
different. Yeah, so I went to New York to dance. I wanted to become a professional dancer because Renee and I both grew up dancing. And I was very lucky to have parents that supported me then going to college to get a dance degree. They're awesome. And so I did that. And then I started dancing for dance companies, which I found out does not make a whole lot of money. So then I kind of turned around and started doing theater again, which I also grew up doing and found that was, not going to be like an NFL salary, but was going to be better than a dance salary. So got back into musical theater, was performing, started touring the country. I was impressionable as a New York City college student and fell into the vegetarian trap because that's what was popular in New York City at that time.
Yeah.
This is early 2000s. And, my mom predicted it. She knew that like I would go to college and fall into that trap. And I did. I cared a lot about animals, and a lot of my friends that were just like very far down that advocacy route were speaking loudly, and it impressioned me. And so I became vegetarian, long story short, for 7 to 8 years. I was touring, and I just noticed over time, like I was getting sick a lot. I was getting injured. I wasn't recovering well, but I thought I was eating like impeccably well. I thought I was eating so healthy, which, if I told you what the foods I was eating, then all of you would be like, oh God, like tuna out of a can, dry cereal, protein bars, a lot of coffee. I was avoiding animal protein, so I thought that I was healthy. And, to shoot forward like a couple of years, my mom recommended I see this acupuncturist, and I had seen an acupuncturist many times. I started going in high school, actually. So I fell in love with acupuncture early on, and many times in my life I've wanted to become an acupuncturist and still haven't gone down that route, but still thinking about it. And so I saw the acupuncturist, and he advised that I try some animal protein. I was like,
Wow.
oh, God. Okay, fine. Like one bite, and it was like I was transformed like Cinderella into her ball gown. I felt amazing. It was like the life force, the chi came back into my body. I was like, oh man, okay, there's something to this. I thought I felt good on a vegetarian diet, but now I feel so much better. It was like the ceiling just got raised. The bar was raised for me. And I like to share with people that was sort of like my introduction, really, in my own way to biohacking. That it was like a personalization. I found that this made me better. This optimized my genetics. This, like I said, like raised the ceiling for me. So I kind of never looked back in that way, but it also was just like this step into this, a whole new phase of life where it was like, I could make different choices and pay attention to the response and see how I feel. And like, I get to direct the show. I'm in control, and I can try and experiment. And then I started remembering like, oh, that's what my dad was doing. He was experimenting. He was like playing and listening. And like, all right, this could be like a cool game. And it became a game, but it also was like the game of life, which is kind of serious. And my health is serious. But I went through some periods of burnout living in New York and dancing and just being type A, doing too much. So
Yep.
it was a constant opportunity to keep listening. But that was like an interesting path in where I was like, oh, food. There's a choice here. There's another way. And I can actually listen to my body, what it's telling me, and maybe like get some cool answers.
See, and I think that's fascinating because I think that probably shapes you who you are today and makes you such a better coach because we're so exposed to, and including myself, I one day it's you're doing the bulletproof diet, we're doing keto, we're doing carnivore, and you can get trapped, I think, into some of these, I don't want to say ideologies. I mean, they're just ways, they're methods to doing it. And when you become so focused on it, you're like, no, but this is the only way, like maybe vegetarian. And so I love that story because I'm sure it makes you such a better coach to be able to relate to everybody that you comes to see you, because you know there's just multiple ways to get to the end path, and you have that openness, whereas some people might be like, nope, it has to be keto. So if you if you don't want to succeed with me in keto, then get out of my life, right?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's
so
like
personal.
just such a normal human response. Like when we find success, we're like, that's the thing. And then it's comfortable and it works. So like, why would we try something else if we found the thing that works? But like, really that goes against like human adaptation and survival. We didn't survive and thrive and adapt by doing the same thing all the time. We're meant to be in flow. Our bodies are dynamic. Our health is dynamic. Our environment is always changing. And so, sure, maybe keto can work for a short period of time. Maybe vegetarian can work for a short period of time. Maybe, you know, X, Y, and Z. There's a million different things you could try, but like, I don't know if you said the word stuck, but that's what I'm thinking. Like, you get stuck down this one path and you forget like all the other possibilities behind you.
I'm just curious, for both of you, when you think about nutrition now, is there, I mean, over the years of just what you've learned and just from the coaching aspect, is there something that you gravitate more or that you've seen work for clients in general, or that you would say, hey, like this is probably going to work for you? I mean, obviously there's some individuality that, like you said, will switch, and hey, maybe you fast and famine, you know, during these times. I'm just bringing this up because I've noticed lately I've been seeing you guys talk a lot about women's hormones and that can, and how maybe to eat or work out during your cycle. So I'm just curious if that, how the nutrition aspect plays into it.
Yeah, gosh, it's really meeting the client, I think, where they are. You know, it's like sometimes it's as simple as just get rid of the processed food. Like you're just eating crap all day. Just eat real food, right? And then we can get down to the nitty gritty of like, well, what are your genetics showing? You know, do you have gut dysfunction? Do you have hormone dysfunction? How's your sleep? How's your circadian rhythm, right? There's all these other factors we can look at when deciding the best nutrition plan. And for me, I'm always trying to figure out what can I do better. And I fell into the trap of like the bulletproof diet about 10 years ago, and that was really big. And I was trying to get pregnant at the time. I also was dealing with burnout, Epstein-Barr virus, metal toxicity, all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, but butter coffee is the way to go, and fasting 16 hours a day is the way to go, right? And that was very eye-opening. So since then, it's like, okay, well, what does my body need? And I appreciate that you brought up women's hormones. I think, you know, Lauren and I are really trying to put our voices out there in the space, in the biohacking space as women, to say we just need to do things differently than men, right? Our hormones are fluctuating every day versus, you know, men, you're kind of more on a 24-hour cycle. We're on like a 28 to 32 day cycle.
Yeah.
So, and I'm always trying to lean into that more, like really following my cycle. What is my temperature? What is my HRV? What is my respiratory rate? All these things, and say, what do I need today? And know that it's different than probably what I need tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that same conversation about being in flow. Like our environment is constantly changing. And so we can really lean into that hormonally, you know, seasonally, with the circadian rhythm, rise and fall of the sun. I'll just say for me, with my clients, I use a lot of CGM, continuous glucose monitoring, to test, because it's a fabulous way to see foods in your body, how you may have like small, slight food sensitivities. So not like bigger, gross examples like celiac, but a lot of people react to corn, or a silly example like I can eat pineapple, but it spikes Renee. We see like these very small nuances like that. So it can bring to light some things that maybe we don't subjectively feel, we don't have symptoms of. So the data can be really revealing. But I think what Renee and I always like to talk about is the data is awesome because it can reveal these opportunities, but then you have to come back to yourself. Like, what are you feeling in that moment? Can you correlate to subjective symptoms? Can you correlate to your mood, your motivation, your sleep, your energy? And then can we lean into the hormonal stuff? Like data plus, so objective data plus the subjective data really is pretty magical. But just to come back to the CGM again, like it can reveal so much about not just food, but how stress affects you. I see clients all the time. I like see a big spike. What happened then? Oh, I had, a heated argument with my partner or my child or something. Oh, no food? Nope. Just like intense emotions. Yes, it's stressful to the body. And we know like our bodies are meant to handle periods of stress. They're also meant to endure periods of rest and recovery. So how are we balancing that out? So I just think the CGM is just such an amazing tool to observe those fluctuations and those responses in the body. It's kind of a starting point. I wouldn't say it's right for everyone, but for most people, I would say like a short stint with it would be a really good idea.
I think you bring up, and that's a fun way. I think the CGM is a fun way to bring into the biohacking conversation. If anybody's like new to that and they want to, like you said, the data matters for a lot of people. And if they can see it and that brings some awareness into their life, without awareness, they can't have any change. Like you said, I might just keep eating pineapples because I'm like, but it's a health food or it's high in vitamin, I don't know, C, let's just say. And so I have to eat that. But it's like, no, but for your body, it's just not working. Look, we see on the CGM, it's just not. That's not going to be favorable for you, but for Lauren it is. So I can see how that's like a really fun thing, and I love that. And I think you're right. The CGM is one of the most pound for pound best biohack you can have in terms of money and like what data you can get back to actually start to make some powerful health changes.
Yeah. I just want to add, because you mentioned this, I had a client earlier today. It was like, I'm really trying to add fruit back in. And I hear that like all the time. I want to add fruit, but it's spiking me. How do I eat it? And she was like, apples are healthy, so I have to eat apples. So I have to figure out how to get apples into my diet. I'm like, maybe, let's just say, maybe apples are not best for you. Maybe we can experiment with some other fruits. Like it's always like can we step back and just erase the dogma, like erase the chalkboard or the whiteboard and just kind of start fresh, because we get so conditioned. We're like over conditioned. So it's like blank slate. Let's start again.
I mean, speaking of just at a really root level, speaking of conditioning, let's think about just an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Like, who created that? I don't know, but it's a jingle we all play in our head. And, maybe it was, if we went back in time, I have no idea, but maybe it was the Kellogg's Frosted Flakes folks that came up with that because they want to sell more. I don't know if they, but you know what I mean? Like it was,
maybe
it was Granny Smith who came up with that, because she wants to sell more apples and start telling your clients. And so we have no idea. And that conditioning is huge, like you said. And you have a client who, man, wants to make these powerful changes, but if the mindset or the conditioning is, but it's really good for me, it's going to be hard to make those changes, even if the data says it's not good for you.
Yeah. Actually, funny story about apples. So I just got like my farm delivery a couple of days ago, and there were some apples in there because it's the time of year, right? And they've been sitting in the fridge, and I haven't touched them. And my husband's like, "Why aren't you eating your apples? Don't you know it keeps the doctor away?" Like,
oh my God,
so it's like it's so
great
ingrained.
timing.
Yeah.
And he's joking, but still, it's like that's what we hear all the time.
Yeah.
It's the Fisetin, right?
Yeah.
They make a pill for that now.
Yeah.
You don't have to eat the food.
Without the sugar.
Okay, so I'm curious then, just on this whole topic that we're talking about, and like you said, Renee, too. Like, man, I was a big bulletproof diet guy as well, and as a first responder, going, working from 4 to 2 a.m., coming home, not sleeping, having a newborn, and I was just like, nope. Gotta be bulletproof coffee, intermittent fasting till noon. Then I can have my first meal. And, I've totally relaxed on a lot of these ideas. I take principles from all these amazing diets and I incorporate them all. But I've really relaxed in the sense of like, it has to be fasting 16/8. So I'm just curious for both of you, what do you think has been like the biggest change or I'm sorry, what's been the biggest thing that maybe you've changed your mind about over, the last, several, let's say decade of everything that you guys both have been, cumulatively learning and interviewing other people on the podcast? Like, what's been the biggest thing that you think you maybe changed your mind about?
Oh gosh.
My
Where do we
gosh.
start?
I know.
Honestly, I think because of the influence that our dad had on us, I think we've always had kind of a curious mindset that I don't know, like, oh no, I take that back. Other than that clouded period of time when I was vegetarian and that was the only way. Yeah. I think in general, we've always been kind of open and tried new things. Like I've never been super dogmatic since I started eating meat again, never super dogmatic about one way. So I don't know that I have a good answer to that. I'll stop talking. Renee?
I feel like something that has just naturally worked for me is like the feast and famine cycling. Like I don't really stress too much about it. I'm not like, okay, like you said, 16 hours and 24 hours. Like I'm not like rigid about it, but like during the week I'm home, I cook all my meals. I naturally can fast longer, and then on the weekends, my husband and I love to go out. We go out to eat. I probably eat a lot more calories, right? I'm not as strict. And I don't know, just like that flow kind of works well for me. So the feast and famine cycling, I think if people can lean into that in whatever way that works, like for me, it is the Sunday to Thursday versus Friday and Saturday. But that's one thing. I think another thing is the overnight fasting. I have played with, okay, all the fasters out there are going to just like drop their jaws. Having a little snack before bed. I have played to see what that does with my CGM, with my HRV overnight, with my sleep scores. And if I have dinner too early, like if I have a 5 or 6 o'clock dinner and then I roll into the night and don't eat anything, I will have a little bit of wakefulness in the middle of the night.
Interesting.
Or I can push dinner to 7 or have the early dinner and have a little snack. And when I say snack, I mean like 1 tablespoon of almond butter or even like 1 scoop of essential amino acids, something like that. And then I sleep like a baby with that. So I think that's one mind shift thing for people is don't feel like you have to get that fast and overnight because maybe you're not sleeping as well because you're forcing that. Just something to think about.
No, I love it. And I mean, I know when I interviewed Rob Wolf, he said, Joel, just so you know, in about 20 years, we will come back and say that fasting has been the biggest joke that we've ever, it's been the biggest like sham that we thought. And I don't think he, by the way, I don't think he meant, I think there's some good data to suggest the 24 hours and the 48 and 72 hours. Like we know like there's some pretty amazing things that have happened to people. Speaking of cancer and maybe, am I allowed to say that on the podcast? Or are they going to ban me? But like people healing themselves, right? And and they went on these longer fasts. But I think he's really talking about like the 16-8. I think he's thinking like what you think you're getting out of it in terms of autophagy or autophagy is like nothing. Like you're like, oh no, but I'm healing my cells. And I think him and maybe some other people are saying, no, you're in a caloric deficit, and that's why you're getting the benefits of that, but you're not getting like this cleaning like that you would from like a 24, 36. So I love that you said that. Like,
right.
I'm not going to be so focused on this fast. I'm a
Yeah.
bad person.
Yeah.
Maybe just stop eating 17 times a day. You know, I think that's the other thing. It's like, you know, someone that goes from eating McDonald's to vegan and their health changes and they're like, oh, vegan is the way. I'm like, or maybe it's because you stopped eating McDonald's and you also started sleeping and meditating and doing yoga, right? There's like all these other factors. I wonder if there is some of that with fasting. People are going from, you know, the average of opening their mouth and putting food in 17 times a day to now eating in an 8-hour window and they're seeing dramatic results. It's like, you know, where's the true balance
which one was
there?
actually moving the needle? Or sometimes I think, like to your point, when I see some clients, we just fix one habit. And let's just say it was sleep. This is like an interesting concept. You could even say, hey, this is a keystone habit, right? But like if I just fix your sleep and I actually dial in your sleep, well, that prioritizes you to do a lot of different things because now you're going to eat differently because maybe you want to eat 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed because now you know I'm going to go to bed at 10 p.m. instead of my usual midnight. You're also going to wake up more refreshed. Cortisol is going to be lower, maybe all these other things, blue light. And so just by fixing one thing like sleep, maybe we got all this cascade of beneficial effects, but that person might say, oh, no, I just had because I compressed my eating window to 8 hours, you know. But, yeah, I mean, to your point, that's a great point. I love that.
Yeah. So many factors.
We can look at the research and the citizen science in any way that we want to, you know?
Yeah.
I see with that cascade, the positive cascade that you're talking about, I also see the opposite of that quite frequently with the CGMs where it's like just one night every eating like a little bit later or drinking a little bit more or more blue light exposure will set off this roller coaster, sometimes for days with glucose. And people will say, well, how could I possibly get a really good score on this particular meal on one day and the next day totally different? What's the difference? You had bad sleep in between. And that really, like you said, like sleep is the most magical thing that you could do. And so I often see people with the CGM start to demonize certain foods. And then we start going down that pathway, that stuckness, that dogmatic, the conditioning where things are good or bad. And it's like, there's just so many variables here. And if we're not coming back to homeostasis in the body, like good circadian practices, good sleep, then what's the point of nitpicking macros, meal timing, ketogenic? Whatever it is. Like it's really about the basics. And I don't think any of us could say that enough.
Yeah. So true. It's all about the fundamentals. I'm curious, when people come to see you, you guys both do, again, I keep saying this, similar but different. But when clients come to see you, what are you typically focusing on, and why? What is like your best client, or like who are the people that you love to serve and reach and do the most with?
Who should
That's
start?
a fun one.
I really, really enjoy working with the biohackers, whether they think they're biohackers or not. But I mean, just anyone that's open to maybe running some labs, having some kind of wearable, an Oura Ring, a BioStrap, a Hanu Health device, just something that will keep them like motivated, and I can see their data and see what's happening. I think for Lauren, it's more the CGM. She does a lot of the CGM coaching. So anyone that has any of those above, I think is a biohacker. And I really like those people because they're motivated. They want to make the changes. That's kind of like my dream client, I would say.
So, but just to be clear, Renee, it does. Are you looking people that typically come to see you? Is it people that are just into health optimization, or maybe like someone who, it could be both? Like, hey, I've already dialed in all these other things. Now I want to optimize with you. Or could it also be the person who's like, I have no idea where to start, but I love this biohacking. I love this CGM and the tech and the Oura Ring and the BioStrap. Start me with a plan. Either.
Yeah, it's really either. I think some people come to me, they've no biohacking tech at all. They don't know anything about it. They're just like curious. Versus I've had some people that come and they're like, here's my 2 years of lab work stacked up, and I have a Chili Sleep, I have a Juve Light, I have an Oura Ring, I have blah, 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 and they're like, just want to go to the next level. And I really love the whole range of things. And actually interesting, I have a new client I'm working with right now, and she came to me with one goal: to increase muscle mass. She said, I'm really healthy. I'm in my 60s. I want to increase muscle mass. And I'm like, all right, well, let's run a couple labs. We do some basic blood work, ran a GIFX panel, hormone test. She has all these things going on, like Hashimoto's, SIBO. And I'm like, she doesn't have any symptoms. And I'm just blown away. And so I'm so curious. I'm going to put her on this plan starting tomorrow to see if she feels like a rock star after. Like, I'm so curious if she just has gotten used to how she feels for so many years that she thinks she is asymptomatic. So
yeah,
that's kind of a fun one.
Yeah, that's fascinating too. And it goes back to that awareness. I love, I've had clients come through too, and they're like, I'm great. I'm doing great. And then I'm like, but you reached out to me, so something must not be that great. And so it's like, once I start kind of peeling back some things, I'm like, oh, wow. Like, so there actually are a lot of problems. You just, in your head, you're just making up the story like, no, life is great. And I'm actually guilty of that sometimes too, because I'm always like the glass is half full. So I might actually do that myself not in a weird way, right?
I mean, optimism will get you a long way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Power of belief, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
Lauren, what about you? Because I know you do also a little bit more of like the physical, the corrective exercise, and So what about for you?
I'm doing way more health coaching these days because I'm completely virtual now. And so not against the personal training virtually, but, a little harder. I have a newbie like you do, and so I can't, put pads through the screen.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Not yet, but I believe that there is a way. So way more health coaching and just a lot of the CGM coaching. So I do get a lot of the biohackers just because that's what the CGM companies are really marketing towards. So more of the people in the optimization range. But I've thought about this like perfect avatar, and I really don't have one because I've seen biohackers that want to optimize but are just very rigid and are not open to playing and experimenting, even though they are using a tool that is designed for experimenting and playing.
Yeah.
And then I've seen opposite end of the spectrum where people are pre-diabetic, diabetic, need a lot of weight to lose, and they're very willing. So there's just like such a spectrum there. But I think what I really love is people that are willing to play and be curious. That's just the most fun for me because I don't know the answers. I don't know your body the way you do, but together matching the objective data with the subjective data, doing some mindset coaching, really like leaning into all of the information, together we can play and experiment and listen and over time gather insights to optimize and get you where you want to go. I think also with the willingness piece is just having a very clear goal. It's interesting that a lot of people will come and say, I want X, Y, and Z. And then when you talk a little bit more and they actually really are not clear about where they want to go, why they want to go there. It turns out like the more we talk, it's like more of a vague goal. So it's always just more fun for me. Like if I'm really particular,
Yeah.
it's fun to have someone that's very clear on their goal, right? And that's just a whole other ball game for someone. And that is a part of the coaching too. I'm sure you've experienced this. Like, can we figure out what your goal is together? That's a whole another realm of coaching that's interesting and fun.
Yeah.
But I think as a biohacker, I just love the people that come in, they know what they want and they're willing, and we don't know the answers, but we're going to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right. I mean, having the growth mindset, having that curiosity, that curious mind, and just being willing to explore together and open to new ideas. I agree. I think one of the worst things, some guy hit me up on Instagram the other day, and it took him a week to get back to me, so that's a red flag too. And I said, so let me just ask you, I'm like, is this a priority for you or just kind of like a get to it eventually thing? And he's like, get to it eventually. And then like he starts sending me all these photos of him. I'm like, as soon as you said get to it eventually, I tuned out. I don't care what photo you sent me about your shape and I said, my reply was, awesome, brother. Let me know when it becomes a priority. The end.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so I think to your point though, like there's that vagueness and like, I kind of want, like, I need people, honestly, that are decisive action takers and they're ready to go. And like you said, if there's that combination, like we can accomplish a lot. So I love that.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like there must just be something else that's a priority and that deserves your attention at this point in time. Like at some point you probably are going to have your weight loss, your health, something in that realm as a priority. But it's not our job as coaches to bring you there. We're there to meet you, like Renee said, where you're at, and we can make magic.
Yeah, and I just like exactly what you said. I think people they're at where they need to be, at where they need to be. Like everything's happening because everything's happening. I'm not in control of that. That's great. And I'm a big believer in vibration and everything too. And so I just think like I'm on a different plane for you, brother. And eventually, hopefully you raise up your vibration and things will come into alignment or whatever, same thing for me. And it goes for me too. I'm not perfect, but I just think about that. Yeah. All right. Yeah. I'm curious. You've been in this, both of you, born and raised in the biohacking world. I'm sure you get this question all the time, but like, if you only could pick one biohack, like what would be like your favorite one that you love the most?
Favorite question.
Can I pick two?
I know.
Okay, pick two.
Wow.
That's fine. Go with two. Yeah. I'm
like
actually
Christmas.
happy.
We only get one gift?
I'm actually happy you have two because I probably would have 10 or just give you one because I'm so confused by the question.
I can narrow down to two.
Yeah.
We'll play a game. Go, Lauren.
Go for it, Nace.
Oh, me? Okay. I would say the Oura Ring, more on the tracking side of favorite biohacks, just because I think, like I said before, I think everyone should have one tracker. I don't care if it's a CGM, a Honey Health, whatever. Pick one so that you can measure what is changing, right? And I just say Oura Ring because I feel like that's the easiest. You put it on your finger, you forget it's there. It gives you so much data. And I know it's not perfect with the data, but I still think the trends are so helpful for people.
Yeah.
So looking at the trends on the Oura Ring, that's my favorite biohack as far as tracking. Favorite biohack as like a tool for optimization, I have to say the Brain Tap. I'm still just such a fan. I say this all the time. I've used it almost every day for 4 years, and it's still the thing that I feel like a rock star after a 15, 20, 30-minute session. It's just such a game changer for me. And I guess, should I share what the Brain Tap is in case people don't know?
Yeah, tell people what the Brain Tap is. People are watching visually actually have it. I've been really, really enjoying this thing myself. So yeah, tell people about Brain Tap briefly because I think, and then let them know too where they can pick it up. I'm sure Renee, you have like a code or something that people can get it at.
Yeah. So a little bit more about the Brain Tap. So yeah, I guess if you're watching the video, you could see what it looks like. But it's like a big headphone set and then a piece that covers over your eyes, and it's using light and sound therapy, and it's basically balancing the right and left hemisphere of the brain, putting you into whatever brainwave state you want to achieve in the moment. So if you want to be more alpha, theta, beta, delta, I like to do the delta a lot. That's like, your deep sleep kind of restorative phase. I just do that in the afternoon for like 30 minutes and just shuts my brain off because we all know the benefits of meditation. And how often do we hear as coaches, I can't meditate. Okay, if you can't meditate, please go buy a Brain Tap. I swear that's like the best solution because it forces your brain to go into that state where the monks are already in 30 seconds of meditation. So use the technology to your advantage. And for me, I didn't really share too much, but in my 20s, I did kind of crash and burn similar to Lauren. I had HPA axis dysfunction, the metal toxicity Epstein-Barr. I had to prioritize my health. I was so chronically fatigued. I had horrific brain fog. I had to look for what the answer was. And it was all these different puzzle pieces I had to put together. But the big thing for me was I was just sympathetically driven at all times, like 24/7. I didn't know how to shut that off. And so actually at the time I discovered this thing called the light portal, which is like this huge box that is
Looks like a coffin.
It looks like a coffin, but it's using light, sound, vibration, crystals, all of these amazing tools, and it puts you into a parasympathetic state really fast. It's like $120,000, so most people are not going to buy one and put it in their house. And there's only 7 in the country, so unless you're lucky enough to live nearby one, you're not going to have that access. But for me, I would go in there, and all of a sudden I would feel so much better. The brain fog would clear, the energy would come back, the creativity would come back. So my solution to that was the brain tap, because I can travel with it. I can do it any day. So just finding a way to get into that parasympathetic state was so big for my healing.
Crucial. Love that.
Yeah.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
What about
and
you,
then
Lauren?
as far as where to find the brain tap, sadly, we don't have a coupon code. Brain tap has not given out. They do sales, though. They'll probably do like a Black Friday sale, Christmas sale. So I would say keep an eye out for any sales.
Yeah, there you go.
Snag it.
Yeah. And you didn't mention we got to record a brain tap track. We pulled clips from our jet lag circadian rhythm ebook, so you can hear our voices on the brain tap, which we were very excited and proud to share.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you not have a coupon code for the audience? You have actual tracks on the brain tap. I'm glad you said that,
hopefully
Lauren.
more to come.
All right, I'm going to go yell at Dr. Patrick Porter for you and tell him to give give your audience a coupon code. What about you, Lauren? Favorite biohack or hacks?
Well, now I want 3.
Go
Can
ahead.
I
Yeah,
get
3. I mean, I love it.
Because I want to offer a tech piece and a free, like, more ancestral hack, which Renee and I talk about, because I think it's important to lean into the tech when useful, but also remember that, like, our ancestors had free biohacks at their disposal before we had modern technology.
Totally.
So I think it's good to have the options and understand the why and the how and the what. I would say for collecting data, a CGM. By far, because it's not just blood sugar and food, but it's stress, it's sleep. I have discovered amazing things for my clients, like just overnight when you're sleeping, you think that everything's at rest and everything's cool. Well, we see underlying stressors pop up here. This could be sleep apnea, pathogens, cortisol dysregulation, hyperglycemia, hypoglycemia. So super, super revealing. But also just a preface for these biohacks, I like something that has a diagnostic, but also some kind of feedback loop. So the CGM is really great accountability and it's revealing. So the diagnostic, it gives you information, but also accountability, motivation in that sense. I think, again, everyone should try it at least at some point in their life. As far as a free biohack, I'm always going to pick movement. Renee and I grew up as dancers and movement is my first love, but I also just day after day experience like the profound benefits of just moving your body for so many reasons. I think moving your body can wake up your brain. It's better than coffee a lot of times. It's the best way to just wake up. It often is like a really good stack. So I like to wake up and get my natural light exposure outside, and I might as well move while I'm there. It wakes me up, sets me up for the day. We know Blue Zone C, people with like the most walking and steps live the longest. So from a longevity standpoint. And also I say movement, not exercise, because I think movement allows for the working out and also the working in, which is the down regulation, the recovery, the rest that a lot of us don't get enough of. Like Renee said, a lot of us are stuck in that fight or flight sympathetic. Are you working in enough? And that's something I learned from my mentor, Paul Chek. And I just think it's like unbelievably valuable. We don't do enough of the working in.
So true.
And then a third one, because I can't help myself.
I'm so curious.
More of the high ticket item. I love the amp coil.
Ooh.
So my very good friend, our mutual friend, Freddie Kimmel, who works for Amp Coil, introduced it to me. The Amp Coil, for anyone that doesn't know, is PEMF technology with Tesla technology. It delivers sound and vibration frequencies using an amplifier. And essentially every organ system in our body resonates at a particular frequency. And when we experience dis-ease, so like out of homeostasis, out of harmony, it's because the frequencies are off. So we can use this technology, sound frequencies. We deliver particular frequencies to whichever system in the body we're trying to address. to bring the body back into homeostasis, because we have natural healing abilities.
Yeah.
That's like the greatest thing about medicine. It's like, oh, our body can do this if we give it the tools to like just be back in harmony.
Yeah.
But what I really love about the AM coil is the diagnostic portion. So there's a voice scan. You can speak into it. And I love it because you like sing your vowels and go, ah, E, I. And you like talk through the alphabet and the numbers. And it can pick up on these like really interesting nuanced frequencies. So say there's like a particular like viral load or challenge at the time, a circadian thing, a hormonal thing. It can pick up on these really slight frequencies. And so it can guide you. It will never replace the doctor, but Renee and I like to joke, you know, it's the next best thing. If you're like, what does my body need today? Oh, let's do the voice print. And we've both had like astounding results and feedback from that. I don't even know what to say. It's just like, it's pretty amazing. Have you experienced it?
So I have an AM coil, and I'll have to get with you offline and talk to you more because I like it. I just don't know if I feel like sometimes I'm not doing it right or consistently. My only complaint too with AM coil is I'm a big like sensory person, so I want to feel the PEMF, and it's like you put it on you, but you don't feel anything. Like, and I'm like, so is this thing working? Like tick tick tick, you know? I will say this: the voice print though, what you're talking about, I have seen, like I've done tests, and I'm sure you've done this too, or like ran labs, and I'm like, all right, let's see what the AM coil voice print can come up with, and it has been extremely accurate. I'm like, wow, like that's pretty cool. So like there's that bioresonance in our body that we're resonating a frequency, and it's been pretty accurate a couple times for me, my wife, my boys. I've used it on. The thing too with kids is I love it. It's hard for me to be consistent to get my kids to go through certain journeys because they have to sit still for a while, and that can be problematic. So yeah, I definitely want to talk to you more about how you're using it.
Oh, I would love to. Yeah, I use it on my dog, and same thing. It's hard to make him sit still, but I think that's also like a practice in itself for us to sit still and like trust in something. And I've felt that way too, where I'm like, I don't feel anything. I really just want, you know, I'm a biohacker. I want like big results.
Yes.
But, you know, sometimes like that magic is just so subtle. And so part of it, I think, is trusting the process. But the other part is like this deep listening that is really difficult because our modern lifestyle society is just so noisy that it's hard to like tune in and feel that stuff. That's like subtle vibrations, frequencies, energetics. We're not supposed to feel it. Like the newbie, you're like, just crank it up. Oh yeah, that feels good. I'm going to shock myself and I know I'm doing something.
Yes. Very cool.
Yeah.
I love those.
So,
Those are some amazing ones. All right. I know I'm looking at it. We got probably 5 more minutes left. I want to jump into some lightning round questions. Before I do, anything I didn't ask you that you wish I had? I'm sure there's lots. I mean, there's two amazing people here, but
oh gosh.
we can always come back for a part 2.
I don't know.
Yeah. We'll come back for a part 2. All right. You ready for some lightning round questions?
Go for it.
Yeah.
All right. I'm curious. Were there any choices or maybe a choice that you made that you think made you who you are today? By the way, lightning round doesn't need to be a fast response. I should probably change the name to something else. I don't know.
So there's less
Canned
pressure.
question.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, the timer is already.
There's no fast
we got
response.
the ding ding. It's so hard to say because I feel like I could question every choice that I've ever made in my life, but also like such subtle choices got me where I am and led me on this path, like going to New York and becoming a vegetarian. Like, I think that was such a wonderful learning opportunity for me. And there's been so many subtle things. It's not just like one thing. And this question really gets me because I'm like, oh man, I could say like, I wish this or I wish that. I'm like, it's all perfect the way it's supposed to be.
For sure.
Yeah. I think, kind of looking at the sequence of how things happen and just being grateful for how it all plays out. When I was in high school, so we were ballet dancers. My dream was to go to New York City, be a ballet dancer, American Ballet Theater. I injured my back. That ended that opportunity pretty quickly. And I said, so fine, I'm going to Florida to study international business, right? Like I said. And I met my husband there. And like, I know this isn't health related, but it's just like that path that got me. If I had never gone down there, would I have ever met him? And I truly believe he is my soulmate in life, my best friend. I couldn't live a day without him. Wow. And we've been together for 17 years now. So it's like, man, did that back injury set me up for this? I don't know. But like, grateful for the path.
Yeah, I agree. Like that's an amazing, and that's a choice. That choice made you pivot. And now who knows? I mean, your talent would have been being a dancer, and it's like maybe if you believe in God or source energy, like that's not where we wanted you. We wanted you. This is where you belong. So I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You two are just such powerful forces in the health and wellness world. I'm just curious, like who inspires you? Is there a person, or I mean, other than your dad, of course, the OG biohacker.
Our mom and dad. Yeah. Definitely them.
That might be the answer, by the way. That's a good answer.
I probably have to say Ben Greenfield has been a big part of my growth. I did the Ben Greenfield coaching program. I think in the biohacking space, I do credit him and Dave Asprey to kind of paving the way for a lot of us in the space, and I am grateful for that. I think now we need more female voices, and we're trying to work on that. But I've learned so much from Ben, and still I work for him now, and grateful for a lot.
Yeah, he's an amazing source. He's an amazing guy doing a lot of good things in the world. So yeah, that's a great person.
Yeah. I would say on that same plane, Paul Chek is just my ultimate.
I had a feeling you might say him, but yeah.
I've learned so much from him because I first learned about him when I was working at New York Sports Club, being a personal trainer in my early 20s. I found him because amazing strength and metabolic conditioning. Come to find out, that was like a speck of his wealth of knowledge, just endless. I've had so much spiritual growth, and I think just that same growth mindset, curiosity, being open, like systems approach. Like he is so truly holistic in my mind, and he's just always surprising me and fascinating me. Like when I think I have an answer, he'll say something else. I'm like, oh, darn it. Of course, should have thought about that.
He's like, Lauren, you're wasting your time with this CGM. I could have told you this is what you do. You think you need a CGM to do this? I do this in my he's amazing.
Yeah, let me just tap in.
I would love to pick his brain about that because he doesn't like the word biohacking, which I respect. I think there is a certain harshness to it, which is why Renee and I have our own definition of biohacking. But I can appreciate that. There is so much more to life, and I think we shouldn't be stuck to tech forever. So always coming back to the why behind it and what can we get out of it and kind of move on with our lives.
Yeah. Awesome. Any books? I'm a big reader. Any books that you recommend, or is there a top 1 to 3 that you just felt like, man, had a huge impact and you'd recommend other people read?
The 4 Agreements is my all-time favorite book. And I guess the Fifth Agreement, because you got to include the 5th one, but not a health book, but just a life lesson. But I think it applies so much to health. Yep. Be curious, use discernment, don't take things personally.
Yeah, I love it. I would throw in the Mind-Body Code. I actually just read that in the last 6 months. Every chapter I'm reading, I'm just like, if everyone in the world could please hear this, the world would be a different place. So the Mind-Body Code.
Love that. That's so funny. I know. I love when I read books like that. I'm like, why didn't I know this is I paid multiple certifications. This person is telling me exactly what I learned. And I'm like, if people just read this book, so it's probably one of those kind of books.
Yeah. And it's on Audible. So if you don't like to sit down and read, he does a great job on Audible. Awesome. Highly recommend it.
Last 2 questions. We'll wrap it up. And I know we talked about biohacks, but are there any rituals or hacks or practices that you do on a daily basis?
Morning sunshine?
Yeah, I would say morning sunshine.
Damn, you both answered that in unison. Wow.
Light. We got to see the light. I just think having some structure with morning and bedtime, optimizing circadian rhythm by just having consistency, I think just has far-reaching benefits.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, I would say just anything to optimize sleep. Like you said, Joel, when you're optimizing sleep, so many other things fall into place. So I think sleep is my number one for the day. I mean, I wake up in the morning and I'm immediately like, how can I improve my sleep tonight, right? Getting that morning sunshine, watching the caffeine, what am I eating, how am I exercising, all the things all day long. And then at night for me, really blocking the blue light, relaxing, slowing down before bed, and getting that amazing sleep. I'm just a different person when I sleep well.
Yeah. Love.
You're also a sleep queen.
I am the sleep queen. Good. I know my husband thinks I should enter into the Guinness World Records of best
I would
sleeper.
vote for you.
Sleep is a skill, right? There you
go. I love it. Last but not least, where can people find you, connect with you, and learn more about what you two amazing ladies are doing?
Yeah, we have a website, thebiohackerbabes.com. We are fairly active on Instagram, Biohacker_Babes, and then we each have our own personal pages, which these days a lot of crossover with Biohacker Babes, but sometimes you'll see like slightly more personal things on our page. Mine is Lauren_Sambataro.
And I'm just Renee Belz. No underscore.
Not just Renee Belz.
Just Renee Belz. But I would say on Biohacker Babes Instagram, like if anyone wants to reach out, message us on there. It is just Lauren and I. We check the messages every day. We're always responding. Like, we love to hear from people.
Awesome. Yeah. Love that. Thank you so much for being on the show. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Joel.
Thanks for having us here. This was a lot of fun.
Always so much fun.